Welcome. Divine mandate. It's not usually about who you are when people get it wrong. It's about what their eyes can't see fast enough. That's the crime that chosen ones have to deal with every day. And it gets even louder when you have that rare gift. You look a lot younger than you are. A face that doesn't fit with your age. A presence that doesn't give in to stress. A light that won't go out no matter how hard life tries to break you. But here's the surprise. Instead of making people respect you, it makes them think they're safe when they're not. They thought they could play with you, control you, or underestimate you because you looked young. They thought your ageless look gave them the go-ahead to cross lines you never let them cross. The funniest part is that they didn't know they were poking a soul that has learned lessons over 10 lifetimes. They look at the packaging, not the power. They look at your face and don't even notice how far you've come. It's like thinking a shiny, well-kept car is slow and then being surprised when it beats everything else on the highway. This fact makes it even more ironic. Research shows that people automatically think that people who look younger are less experienced, less authoritative, and more naive, even if they are decades older. So, your whole life has been a social experiment, and you didn't even know it. You were just trying to mind your own business, drink your water, and take care of your soul. But then someone thought they could test you because you don't look like what you've been through. But that's when your story really starts to matter. The same youthful glow they didn't see coming is the same glow that comes from getting through hard times without letting them get to you. It's the glow of someone who got better instead of worse, someone who learned it without getting older, someone who has wisdom but doesn't show it on their skin. And now those same people who thought you were easy to control are realizing they chose the wrong person. They didn't see the quiet storm coming. They didn't give enough credit to someone whose spirit is older than their bad intentions. So, let's talk about it. Why people who look younger than their age are the most underestimated, misread, and tested, and why these assumptions always turn out to be wrong. This is where it all comes together. First, they thought you were inexperienced because of how young you looked. People thought they knew you just by looking at you. They thought you didn't know much about life because your skin was smooth. As if that meant your life would be smooth. They thought that how you looked told the whole story. People who look young must still be learning the basics, still making mistakes, and still needing help from people who know more than they do. That's the trick they played on you before you even said anything. They didn't know that your youthful glow had nothing to do with being inexperienced and everything to do with how you live your life. You went through things that could have made you look older overnight, but you wouldn't let the world leave its mark on your face. They didn't expect you to have the level of self-awareness and emotional intelligence you did during your storms. They thought you were new to the world, but the truth is that you have learned how to hide what you went through. And this is where they always get shocked. They treat you like you're a beginner, talking down to you and trying to teach you things you learned years ago. They don't give you enough credit for your intuition, insight, and instincts. They think you will be easy to persuade, trick, or impress. The conversation changes then. Your depth comes through. Your ability to tell things apart comes to life. And all of a sudden, their whole idea falls apart. They know they've been talking to someone who can see right through them. Your youthful glow was a mask that hid your wisdom, not a sign that you didn't have it. It let you watch people without giving away how much you really know. People showed you their true intentions because they thought you weren't smart enough to see through them. And the funniest part is that they played themselves. They forgot that being young and being new to something are two very different things. You got your glow by learning quickly, healing quickly, and understanding life in ways that make the mind deeper but don't change the face. They thought you were behind them, but you were really miles ahead. Number 2, they forgot. Being young is often a sign of being emotionally clean. It's not just a coincidence that you look young. It's a sign of how well you've taken care of yourself on the inside. People thought your face looked smooth and healthy because of luck or genetics, as if it was just a coincidence that you weren't scarred by the chaos around you. They completely missed the bigger picture. You look younger than you are because your mind is disciplined, organized, and free of bitterness. You've made it through storms without letting them live in your heart for free. Your youthfulness shows that you are emotionally clean, but most people can't see it because they mix up looking tired on the outside with being wise. They get older quickly because they carry around anger, grudges, and insecurities all the time. Their faces tell stories of fights they never finished, mistakes they never forgave, and jealousy they couldn't let go of. You, on the other hand, know that holding on to anger, betrayal, or jealousy does more harm than the harm that caused it in the first place. You process, you let go, you heal, and it shows. Not letting negativity build up inside you is what keeps you looking young. They thought you were naive because of how you looked, but it's really a sign of discipline and skill. And that's where they went wrong the most. They thought that someone who looks young must be flexible, untested, or naive. They didn't see that you made it through things that would have made most people old, bitter, and broken. They didn't see how much emotional work it took to stay unscarred. They didn't pay attention to the many battles that were fought in silence, the lessons learned without letting them poison your spirit, or the strength it takes to stay light while carrying heavy truths. People are put at ease by your youth, but they also miss the warning. You have more clarity, control, and wisdom than they do. They thought that being fresh meant being weak, being soft meant being weak, and being bright meant being stupid. The truth is that you are not weak or new to this. You're clean, whole, and much more dangerous than they thought. And that emotional cleanliness doesn't just keep you looking good, it also keeps your power. They thought you were calm because you didn't have any scars from surviving. People saw you and thought you were calm, composed, and unshakable, so they thought your life had been easy. People who carried themselves with quiet confidence must have had an easy life with no problems, pain, or challenges. They didn't know that being calm doesn't mean there are no storms. It means being able to handle them. You chose not to wear your trauma or battle scars on your face, so your outside doesn't look like it. You've been through a lot, but fire never burned the soul you carry so well. They were looking for a reaction, an edge, or a sign that they were having a hard time. They wanted to see lines of worry, eyes that showed they haven't slept in days, and faces that showed they are always fighting with life. Instead, they got someone who walks with purpose, who stays calm in any situation, and who doesn't let the chaos around them change how they look or act. They were wrong to think that the weight of life had to show all the time. They thought strength was weakness and calmness was weakness. Every calm look, every steady gesture, and every slow movement shows how good you are. It shows that you made it through things that most people thought would leave permanent scars. It shows that you learned how to deal with hard times, learn from them, and not let them hurt you. They misread the calm as a sign of weakness. They thought it meant you didn't have anything to protect, defend, or fight for. In reality, it means that you've already fought, won, and left without having to carry the weight. They didn't expect how disarming calmness can be. It makes them think less of you, which makes them careless and lets them say more than they mean to. They made a huge mistake because they only looked at the surface and not the depth. Just because you look calm doesn't mean you haven't been through a war. It means you've learned how to get through it without breaking, and you've become much stronger and smarter than anyone thought possible. They thought that being calm meant being weak, but in reality, it means that the person is a survivor who can't be cornered, controlled, or manipulated without facing consequences they aren't ready for. Fourth, they thought that having soft features meant having soft boundaries. People saw your soft features, calm expressions, and presence that didn't demand constant attention, and they thought your boundaries were just as soft as your features. They thought that people who looked friendly, young, or calm were easy to push around, easy to control, and easy to ignore. They didn't think that the softness they saw was a choice, not a sign of weakness. You weren't born calm in the middle of chaos. You learned how to stay calm while drawing lines that they would never cross. They thought they could test limits you didn't make clear when they walked into your space. They thought you couldn't defend yourself because you didn't show aggression. They didn't know that soft features can be the best kind of armor. You learned that people often judge others by how they look, so you let them get it wrong about you, knowing that it would show their true motives. They thought they could do whatever they wanted with someone who looked young and harmless, but they didn't take into account how clear your limits are and how quietly powerful you are. You aren't naive because you're kind. It's about control. Every calm smile and every peaceful gesture hides a level of understanding that they can't see right away. You know how to make people think they're walking on a soft surface when you've really built invisible walls to keep your energy, time, and peace safe. They didn't realize how strong the iron was under the velvet, how sharp it was under the calm, or how watchful it was behind the friendly face. That's where the surprise hits the hardest. The same softness they tried to use against them is what makes them fail. They thought that being calm was being tolerant, that being patient was being weak, and that being gentle was giving up. You don't have to yell, glare, or fight to make your point. They exist regardless of your appearance. Having soft features doesn't mean having soft limits. People might think they can easily move, sway, or control you, but you have a quiet, unyielding strength that no one sees coming. That's exactly why they got it wrong. Number 5. They thought you were easy to control because you still looked untouched. People looked at you and saw someone who was fresh, full of energy, and had a face that hadn't been through too many fights. They thought you were easy to influence. They thought that someone who looks like they haven't been through anything in life must not have been tested or prepared for a fight. They thought they could push you around, change your mind, or make you do what they wanted because they thought you looked young and flexible. They didn't know that the glow they thought was innocent was actually the result of survival, discipline, and unbreakable inner strength. You never looked untouched because you were naive. It shows how well you can handle things without getting poisoned. You've been through storms, betrayals, and manipulations, but you've learned how to deal with them without letting them drain your energy. People who tried to take advantage of you didn't see all the lessons you learned the hard way. The boundaries you set up without saying anything, or the instincts you developed through experience that they couldn't even begin to understand. They thought that being resilient meant being inexperienced, being calm meant being compliant, and being calm meant being ignorant. The irony is that their assumptions don't work out. They thought you were a beginner, but you were already ahead of them. They made a mistake because they judged you by your skin and face, not by the wisdom that was hidden in your choices and reactions. Every time they tried to control you, it showed more about their flaws than your strengths. Your untouched look became a strategic advantage. It let them show themselves while you stayed calm, unaffected, and fully aware of what they were up to. They thought they were testing someone who didn't know what they were doing, but in reality, they were dealing with someone who was very good at watching, waiting, and controlling themselves. They didn't realize how deep the water was, how much thought went into what you did, or how strong a soul can be when it won't let chaos get to it. At first, they might think you're weak because of how you look, but your actions show that being untouched doesn't mean you're weak. It means being ready, disciplined, and untouchable in ways they never thought possible. They saw your light skin, but not your heavy wisdom. Number 6. People looked at you and made judgments based on what they saw. They saw your smooth, light skin, your unlined face, and your glow, and they thought that meant you were simple, innocent, or not very deep. What they completely missed was the way to carry under that skin, the knowledge, lessons, and understanding gained from experiences that would have made them decades older. They were too busy judging you by the wrong standard, thinking that someone who looks fresh must be new to life. They didn't get that your outside is a mask for something much stronger, knowledge that comes from living, watching, and thinking about things quietly. They didn't know that your light skin and young looks could be used as a weapon. They thought you were weak when you weren't, and they didn't realize how well you understood human nature, which only comes from facing challenges head-on and not letting them break you. They didn't see how many times you dealt with betrayal without letting it drain your energy, the nights you spent learning lessons that made other people angry, or the little ways you saw danger coming before it got to you. They made their judgment based on what they saw on the surface and didn't see the layers of planning and intelligence that go into every choice you make. It's funny how easy it is for people to get the wrong idea about someone like you. They mix up what they see with what they think is real, and in doing so, they put themselves in danger. They talk like you don't know what's going to happen, like you're still trying to figure out the rules and are going to fall where they think you will. But your glow, your young looks, and your light features don't tell the whole story. They hide it. They don't want you to know that you've learned a lot more than they thought you would, and that you live your life with a clarity that their assumptions can't touch. They think less of you because of how you look, and that's why it works. They only see what's on the surface and miss the depth, sharpness, and wisdom that you carry like armor. They think that brightness is stupidity, but for you, radiance shows that you are in charge. It's proof that you stayed light, learned it hard, and came out stronger than anyone thought. Even though others grew old in anger and fear, they see the skin, but they don't see the soul. And that is what sets you apart from everyone else who has made a mistake about you. They thought you didn't know the game because you didn't look like it had been tough on you. People thought you were new to life's problems because of how young you looked, how calm you were, and how little stress showed on your face. They thought that someone who looks like they haven't been through any stress, hasn't been through any manipulation, betrayal, or problems. They thought they could come up to you, test you, or even lie to you because you didn't look like a seasoned survivor. They didn't understand that just because something doesn't look worn doesn't mean it hasn't been used. It means being in charge of it. You've been through storms that would leave most people with scars for life. And yet you walk through life without any of the chaos obvious scars. They didn't think you were aware of what was going on because they thought that wisdom always comes with wrinkles and a stern face. They thought that the game had to leave behind proof of survival. They didn't think you had already won a lot of rounds quietly when they didn't see it. Every time they looked at something or made an assumption, they were wrong. They thought that being calm meant being new to something, being composed meant being easy, and being there meant being passive. They didn't know that their lives were full of problems, but yours were full of wins. You learned the rules, figured out the patterns, and got your strategy just right without letting life get in the way of your spirit. You got the better of them because they made a mistake. They thought you would make a mistake or show that you weren't sure what to do, but you moved with accuracy and insight. You saw what they were going to do before they did it, understood the situations they thought they were in charge of, and reacted in ways they didn't expect. They thought the game would tire you out like it did them, but the way you live your life doesn't need clear proof of struggle to show that you are capable. They thought they could test someone who looked like they had been affected by the world, but in reality, they were testing someone whose control, perception, and skill were much better than what they could see. Your young look is a sneaky weapon, and while they thought you were tired and old, you went through life with a clear mind, a plan, and an awareness that they never saw coming. They saw the surface but not the depth, and that mistake gave you an advantage in every fight. Number 8. They thought you looked young because you were frozen in time. People thought that because you looked young, your mind had stayed the same since you were a kid. They thought that if you looked young, you also thought young, which meant that your thoughts were shallow, your decisions were immature, or your awareness was limited. They didn't know that your mind and your body are two completely different things. Your face may not show the passage of time, but your mind has a depth of experience that most people your age don't have yet. They thought you were stuck in time, but in reality, you've been changing without anyone noticing, learning quickly, and adapting in ways that keep you light while others get heavy. They didn't realize how strong someone could be who doesn't wear their struggles or stress on their sleeve. They thought you hadn't lived long enough to get good at reading people and situations, making good decisions, and having sharp intuition. They were shocked when you made a quick decision, understood complicated things without any trouble, and gave them an answer they didn't expect. Your youthfulness hid a lot of wisdom that you had gained over the years. You dealt with every challenge without letting it change how you saw things, and you learned from every lesson without changing how you looked. They didn't see the mental toughness that keeps you ahead. They only saw the outside, which told the wrong story. The funny thing is that they see you as a living contradiction because you don't look older. They think you're still, but your mind is always working, making plans, analyzing, and predicting. They think you're naive, but you've noticed things about how people act that they still don't see. They think life is simple, but you know it is very complicated. That difference between what they see and what you really are makes them uncomfortable, confused, and eventually scared because looks can be deceiving. They thought you were stuck in your ways because you looked so young, but in reality, it's a way to hide mastery. You don't need to have wrinkles to show that you have experience. You don't have to look worn out to be in charge. While everyone else thought you were still, your mind has been active, alert, and growing. They made a mistake in their judgment, and that's why they are always surprised, outsmarted, and outlasted by your presence. Number 9. They thought you were less than you were because you didn't show the signs of their regrets. When people looked at your face, they saw smooth skin, brightness, and an energy that wasn't weighed down by the mistakes of others. They thought you hadn't lived long enough to matter. They thought that the lessons of life always leave a mark. They thought you were inexperienced, naive, or untested because they couldn't see the signs of struggle on your face. They didn't know that not having visible scars doesn't mean you're not smart. It shows that you know how to do it. You didn't let the bad things that happened to you define who you are. You learned from your mistakes, let go of the things that were holding you back, and moved on with clarity, leaving your face free of the burdens that make other people look older than they are. Your youthful look silently challenge what they think they know. They got older because they were weighed down by regrets, grudges, past mistakes, and unmet expectations, which they refused to let go of. Every wrinkle, line, and sign of wear on them shows that they fought battles that left permanent scars. You, on the other hand, went through struggles that were just as hard or even harder than those and didn't let them affect your energy or how you act. You dealt with the problems, learned what you needed to learn, and let go of everything that didn't help you. Your smooth skin doesn't mean you're weak. It's proof that you've learned how to be strong, wise, and in control of your emotions in a way they can't even see. Your power comes from the fact that they didn't give you enough credit. They thought you were weak, stupid, and inexperienced. So they came to you thinking you would be an easy target. They didn't know that the person with the unmarked skin and youthful glow has been through the same storms in life as they have, but they can learn from them without carrying the weight. You've learned lessons without letting them make you bitter or tired. They thought that not showing regret meant they had never done it before, and that mistake worked in your favor. You move with quiet authority, clarity, and precision while they let go of their worries, mistakes, and plans through their visible burdens. Not having the wrinkles of regret doesn't mean you haven't lived. It means you've lived through it better, cleaner, and stronger. They didn't think you were as deep as you are, and that is exactly what gives you power. People don't think highly of you. 10. They thought you were still figuring things out because you didn't look tired. People thought you were still learning, still stumbling, and still figuring out the basics of life because of how energetic and glowing you looked and how calm you seemed. They thought that anyone who didn't look tired, sad, or like they had failed must not have been through a lot of stress, heartbreak, or failure. They didn't realize that your energy wasn't a sign of being dumb. It showed that you were an expert. You handled life's problems with care, learned from them without letting them get you down, and came out stronger, more refined, and much further ahead of those who thought they had the upper hand. They were ready to see signs of trouble. They looked for the tiredness, the obvious stress, and the face that shows the story of many sleepless nights and wounds that haven't healed. They thought you weren't battle-tested if they didn't see it. They didn't know that you had been through storms that would have left most people tired for decades. But you learned how to get through life without letting it control your energy. Your strength isn't loud, it's quiet, but you can't deny it. You didn't just happen to be calm. It's planned. And your clarity isn't just a stroke of luck. It's the result of years of carefully watching, thinking, and acting wisely in complicated situations. It's funny that they made a mistake that helped you. They thought you were a work in progress, someone who could be changed, influenced, or taken lightly. But their guesses gave them away. They didn't think you could see things before they happened, or that you could see what people were going to do. They thought things would be unclear, but they were met with a plan. They thought they were inexperienced, but they found out they were wrong. You didn't look tired because you don't let the chaos of life get to you. You get better, think about what happened, and get stronger with each challenge. Your youthful energy is not a bad thing. It means you figured out things about life that they never thought of. They thought you were still learning the game, but in reality, you already know it inside and out. And that mastery is what makes them blind, angry, and finally powerless when you're around. They thought you wouldn't be able to speak because you didn't have any visible battle scars. People thought that because you looked young, had smooth skin, and were calm, you would also be quiet, pliable, or silent when faced with a challenge. They thought that only people with wrinkles, scars, or signs of being tired had power, confidence, and authority. They couldn't understand that your power doesn't have to show itself through scars from fights. You don't have to look like life has broken you to show that you can stand up for yourself, speak clearly, and hold everyone around you responsible. They were wrong to think that looks determined strength. They thought that not seeing suffering meant not having experience, not having knowledge, or not having an effect. They didn't know that your calmness hides a mind that is sharper than most, a soul that is older than most, and a voice that carries weight because it comes from understanding, not performance. You don't have power because you're tired. It comes from being clear. Every word you say and every choice you make is based on what you see, what you think, and the confidence that comes from living without letting life define you. They didn't understand how silence can be louder than noise. They didn't see that being quiet and young makes people underestimate you. They thought they would see doubt, hesitation, or weakness. Instead, they met a presence that draws attention because it isn't frantic, reactive, or desperate to prove itself. Not seeing someone struggle doesn't mean they don't have agency. It means having control, balance, and limits. The funny thing is that the people who doubted you and thought you didn't have a voice are often the ones who are most open about themselves. They don't think you know what you're talking about, and by doing this, they show their weaknesses and plans. Number 12. They thought you wouldn't notice what they were up to because you looked innocent. People saw how young you looked, how calm you were, and how composed you were, and they thought they could move around you without being seen. People think that someone who looks innocent, calm, or new to the world wouldn't notice the little games people play or the hidden agendas that often lie beneath the surface. They didn't know that being innocent doesn't mean being stupid. You are able to glow, be smooth, and be light because you pay attention, are disciplined, and can take in life without letting it cloud your judgment. They thought they could hide what they wanted to do, underestimate how well you could see through their lies, and control you without any problems. But they were walking right into a trap that they didn't even know was there. They are disarmed by how young you look, but that also hides how you see things. They didn't think about the fact that you can read between the lines. You notice how people's voices change slightly, how their stories don't always match up, and how they seem to have a lot of energy. You were quietly noting, analyzing, and remembering, even when their words said something else and they thought their motives were hidden. Every mistake they made and every hidden plan they thought you wouldn't find out about only made the difference between what they wanted and what you actually did even bigger. Their assumptions served as a guide, disclosing more than they had intended. They thought you were naive because you were calm and young, but in reality, it's your shield. It lets you see the world clearly, while people show themselves without meaning to. They feel safe around you because of how you look, and they fall into that trap. They put themselves in danger because they think someone who looks like they haven't been through a lot of trouble will be easy to trick. They don't know that you've been through a lot more than they can imagine, and your age or looks don't stop you from seeing things. They thought that being innocent meant not knowing, but your innocence is planned. You can see everything without letting anyone know you see it. They see every hidden agenda, every subtle manipulation, and every attempt to test you. Your youthful looks were never a bad thing. It was a quiet advantage, a way to watch, learn, and act while the world didn't realize how smart you were. They thought you would need them because you looked sick. People thought you were dependent, inexperienced, or needed help right away because of your young face, fresh energy, and calm demeanor. They thought that if someone doesn't show the visible way of life, they must rely on others for help, support, or guidance. They thought you would be grateful for their help, their approval, or even their interference. They didn't realize that looking green doesn't mean you're weak, unskilled, or dependent. You know how to live, thrive, and get through life on your own terms. And your looks have always been a way to hide your independence. They didn't realize how strong someone could be who has quiet confidence and doesn't talk about their problems. They thought they could depend on, obey, and be vulnerable, but they got the opposite. Your youthful looks made them feel better than you, but they hid the many lessons you've learned that don't leave any visible marks. You've dealt with every problem, avoided every trap, and noticed every manipulation on your own. And that independence isn't always clear. They thought that being fresh meant being weak and being simple meant needing help. They thought that age or looks determined ability, which was a mistake. They thought you would trip, ask for help, or wait for their permission to do something. But you were already a step ahead. Your choices, your awareness, and your actions are based on your own experiences, plans, and gut feelings, not on what other people say or do. People may have judged you based on what they saw on the outside, but your reality has always been deeper, sharper, and more self-sufficient than anyone thought. They thought they could fill a gap you didn't have, thinking they were giving you what you needed. In reality, their interference didn't matter. You didn't need them. And the more they tried to get involved, the more they showed how wrong they were. Being green never meant being dependent. It meant looking like you weren't very good at something, while actually being very good at it. Not only were their assumptions about how needy you were wrong, but they also showed how far ahead you've always been, moving in ways that they will never fully understand. They thought that looking young meant being weak, but you used being ageless as a weapon. People saw your young face and thought they had an edge right away. They thought that people who look younger than they are weaker, easier to control, or less experienced. They used your looks as an excuse to test your limits, push your buttons, or challenge you in ways they would never do with someone who looked their part. They didn't realize that your agelessness isn't a weakness. It's a weapon that is both subtle and very effective. They let their guard down because you're young, which makes them too sure of themselves and shows you exactly what you need to see. The power you've built up over the years is hidden by your glow, smoothness, and energy. You know how to survive, watch, and act without letting the chaos of life leave lasting scars on you. They think that energy is weakness, but it's really the result of being strong, having a plan, and being in control of yourself. They don't know you well enough to judge you based on what they see. They think you're weak, but you've been quietly learning, getting ready, and putting yourself in the right place so that when the time comes, you can act with precision. Your youthful look is the perfect cover for the wisdom and power that they can't see right away. The funny thing is that their assumptions work in your favor. They show their true colors, show their weaknesses, and make choices based on the wrong idea that you are weak or inexperienced. You don't have to act the way they want you to, and because you don't, they make mistakes that you can see coming and take advantage of. They think they're testing someone who will fail, but instead, they're walking right into someone who has already mastered the game. You are ageless in more ways than just how you look. It's power, insight, and authority that work quietly but well. Being young doesn't mean you're stupid or weak. It means you've made it through life without letting it leave too many marks on you. And you move through the world with a clarity and control that makes people who only look at your skin blind. They thought they could take advantage of you, but your agelessness makes you untouchable, unpredictable, and much stronger than anyone thought. People who look younger than their age are chosen ones, and the truth about them is much deeper than anyone around you could ever see at first glance. People's judgments about your inexperience, vulnerability, or naivety are based on what they can see on the surface, but they can't understand what's going on underneath. Your youthful looks don't show that you're weak. It hides strength. It hides wisdom that comes from overcoming challenges, fighting battles in silence, and learning lessons without letting life leave permanent marks. You know how to show strength without looking like you're trying too hard, authority without needing to be noticed, and clarity without having to prove yourself. The people who thought you were less than you were did so because they only looked at what they could see, not what was really there. They thought that soft features meant soft boundaries, a calm demeanor meant passivity, and a look that wasn't touched meant dependency. They didn't know that each of these traits, your glow, your calmness, your innocence, and your youthful energy gives you an edge. They got it wrong every time, showing their plans, flaws, and too much confidence while you stayed fully aware, ready, and untouchable. Your agelessness has always been a weapon that disarms those who misjudge you, reveals the truth about their character, and lets you move through life with a level of precision and authority they can't see coming. This isn't luck, chance, or a gift that you didn't ask for. It is the result of intentional survival, self-care, and a level of spiritual and emotional awareness that most people in the world aren't ready to understand. Your youthfulness shows that you have mastered power without showing it off, gained wisdom without showing it off, and are strong without needing to show it off. People will still get you wrong, underestimate you, and question you, but every mistake you make just shows how far ahead you are, how untouchable you are, and how much control you have over your life. If you've been watching this and can relate to what it's saying, don't just let it go by. To stay in touch with insights that show you the hidden power inside you, subscribe to the channel now. If this video speaks to your journey, please like it, leave a comment to tell your story, and don't forget to tell others who need to know what it really means to be underestimated, misread, and unstoppable. This is your life, your story, and your mastery. Let it be known, heard, and praised. Bless you.